Good evening. Good evening. Hey, would you all stand? Let's worship. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing loss. The Father turned His face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon His shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out amongst the scoffers. It was my sin that held Him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, His death and resurrection. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. Amen.
I see the King of Glory coming on the clouds with fire. The whole earth shakes. The whole earth shakes. Yeah. I see His love and mercy washing over all our sin. The people sing, the people sing, Hosanna. who I am. Oh, I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide us, you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. And love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think, and you call me deeper still as you call me, deeper still as you call me, deeper still into love, love, love. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us.
Amen. You can be seated.
Coming up on Wednesday Night Live.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
And we get asked all the time, Michael, what was a day in the life of a mobster really all about? And so I want to answer that today. I want to deal with it.
You want to tell me where we're going? I got sent for.
I was sent for by the acting boss at the time, Tom DeBella. Little Jojo Vitaco, who was a soldier, picked me up. I go to see the boss. Andrew Russo was there. He was kind of the underboss at that time and advising Tom on a lot of things in Junior's absence, Persico's absence. And I sat with Tom and he said, Mike, Your Father wants you to become a member of this life. Is that what you want? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're on call to serve this family, the Colombo family. That means if your mother is sick and she's dying and you're at her bedside, this family calls you to service, leave your mother, come and serve us. From now on, we're number one in your life before anything and everything.
All right, so who's coming out next Wednesday night to hear from Michael Franchise? You'll come if you know what's good for you. Forget about it. All right, welcome to Wednesday Night Live here at Our Watch with Tim Thompson. Glad everybody is here tonight in the house and everybody watching online, Facebook and Rumble and YouTube, I believe. Should be on all those places. We've got a great guest tonight. We've got a great night for you. And a couple announcements I'll give you. But before we go any further, would you join me as we pray? Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here tonight in your house amongst like-minded people coming for good information. We've come to praise you. We've come to hear from your word. And we've come to hear some just great information from our guests tonight, and Lord. And so we just lift it all up to you, and we ask that this would bless and equip everybody watching, and this message would go far and wide. And we're just so grateful to be here. So thank you for everything, God, and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we are taking an offering for Our Watch with Tim Thompson. So if you're here tonight and you're able and willing to give and help support what Our Watch is doing, if you're writing out a check, just make sure you write it to Our Watch, not 412 Church. And if you're online watching and you would like to contribute, you can do that at ourwatch.com/donate. So whether you're able to help support or not, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you being involved with us, and we're just happy that you are tuning in. So how many of you seen the interviews that Pastor Tim has done in the Our Watch studio with the judges that are on the ballots coming up? Okay, so you guys have been seeing that. But for those that have not been, Pastor Tim has interviewed 4 candidates for judge in Riverside County that he recommends. And so this week he interviewed all 4. And you can find those on all the different social media sites. He has already put out the video for Christy Kirk. Yesterday was Jay Keel. Today the interview aired for Natalie Lowe. And tomorrow will be Jason Stone. So if you want to get to know these judge candidates and what they're all about, check those out on YouTube and any of the social media channels. And I'm sure you will enjoy that. All right, we've got a movie night coming up this Friday night. So we've been talking about it for weeks now. You've heard from Trevor Loudon. Some of you are familiar with the movie Enemies Within the Church. And so we are having a movie night here at 412 Church this Friday at 6 o'clock. The cost is $8, and that includes popcorn, candy, coffee, all the refreshments that you would expect at a movie. And it's all happening right here. So you can get your tickets for that in advance. What you need to do, get them at 412temecula.com. And if you haven't already, I'm sure you all have, but for the new people and those that just haven't got around to it yet, join the email list. Go to ourwatch.com, get on the email list. Not only will you be kept up to date with everything that Our Watch is doing, but you'll be getting the notes. So we're about to be getting into politics in the Bible, and if you're on the email list, then you know that you got the notes for that already today. And so if you would like to get those notes and get other information, that's where you do it. You can also like and subscribe on all the Instagrams and Facebooks and Twitters and True Socials, and make sure that you're liking and subscribing to YouTube, Rumble, and I believe that's it for those. But we're going to be getting started in just a moment. So who's ready to have some fun tonight? All right. Well, so are we. Sit back, relax, enjoy Wednesday Night Live.
He's heard it all before. You're a pastor. You're not supposed to get political. You shouldn't be talking about these issues. So just stay out of politics and stick to preaching the gospel. Life, marriage, sexuality, borders, ethnicity, these things aren't political. They're biblical. God's word has much to say about the culture we're living in. This is Our Watch with Tim Thompson.
Well, good evening, everybody. So good to see you all. Really excited about our guest tonight. How many of you are excited about our guest? This is going to be a good time tonight. I just want to, normally what we do, for those of you that are new, I give some news stories. We get into the book of Daniel a little bit, and then we bring out our guest. I'm going to go very quickly because I've just got one news story I want to share with you. I was trying to shrink this down for the sake of time, but I couldn't not share this story with you. So there's this study that came out, some of you may have heard of it, that increased testosterone levels can cause Democrats to be more conservative in their political affiliation. A recent experiment analyzing voters in U.S. elections found. This is legitimate. This is the real deal. That basically, if you are a male and you have low testosterone, you're more likely to be a Democrat. This was a recent experiment analyzing voters in U.S. elections found that increased testosterone levels can cause Democrats to become more conservative in their political affiliation. This study was published on November 14th of last year by Professor Paul Zak, the director of the Center for Neuroeconomic Studies at Claremont Graduate University. Now, this guy, this professor, he's a legitimate professor. He's in the top 0.3% of people who get cited in these medical magazines. This is a legitimate study that took place. The study explained that when weakly affiliated Democrats received additional testosterone, the strength of their party fell by 12%, and they reported 45% warmer feelings towards Republican candidates for president. Is that, I would say that would be unbelievable, but I believe it. I think we kind of knew it all along, and and now we've got science to prove. And if anybody says that this isn't real, they're a science denier. Now, here's one final part of this article that came out. It says before the testosterone treatment, okay, before they ever did this, they found that weakly affiliated Democrats had 19% higher testosterone than those who identified strongly with the Democrat Party. So if they were just loosely affiliated, but they weren't way down deep into the Democrat Party, they had higher testosterone levels. It says that the study continued. It says that reiterating that the correlation between individuals with lower testosterone would be having left-wing political beliefs. So there we have it. Dudes with low testosterone are Democrats. Hey, this is an article that came out. A doctor shared it with me. I'm like, I got to share this with the group tonight. So there you have it. That's the one news story I'm going to share. I'm going to go ahead and get into the book of Daniel now. If you have a Bible, open up, if you would, to Daniel chapter 2. If you don't have one, there should be one in the seat below you. Daniel chapter 2. So I want to go quickly through this because, like I said, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about with our guests this evening. But Daniel chapter 2, we are in this time where Daniel is revealing what King Nebuchadnezzar wanted to know. So for those of you who haven't been here, King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, is during the Babylonian captivity of the Jewish people. This is around 605 BC is when this began. And during this time, Daniel had risen up to be this guy that was really looked up to amongst all the Chaldeans. And he was this guy that was able to do things that other people weren't. One of those things is he's able to interpret dreams. God had given him the ability to do that. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he kind of tested his counsel, if you will. These people that he would have inherited from his dad, these soothsayers, astrologers, magicians, sorcerers, that would advise the king on certain subjects. He was testing them. He said, I had a dream, and I want you to do two things. I want you to tell me what it was that I dreamt, and I want you to give me the interpretation. Well, of course, these guys are frauds. They're not able to tell him the dream. And he basically said, if you don't do this, I'm going to chop you into pieces. And this was a guy who had a reputation for doing just that. So Daniel goes to the Lord in prayer. He brings his buddies, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, with him to pray. And they go before the Lord all night. And in the middle of the night, God finally tells Daniel what the dream was, and not only what the dream was, but what it means. So Daniel starts to unveil this. There's this great image in the dream, and the image represents time frames throughout history. Now keep in mind, this is around 600 BC. This is before we saw the Roman Empire even be a thing, okay? So the precision in which this dream was given and interpreted made many people believe that Daniel was not the author of this book, that it was written, a couple hundred years after Daniel died. But there just couldn't be true, and we have many different reasons for that, and we're going to be getting into those as we continue on in the book of Daniel. But it's very precise, and it shows us yet again that the Bible is real, the Bible is right, and the Bible is what we can use for the standard in which we live. So take a look at Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. It says, "You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. This image's head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from under the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found, and the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." So, we talked a little bit about this last week, but you look at the image, and there's this progression downwards. It starts with gold, then silver, then bronze, then iron mixed with clay. Gold is precious. Gold is more valuable than clay, right? So the fact is, though, gold is not as strong as iron. But iron mixed with clay is totally unstable. So going down, it increases in strength but decreases in value. And that's what's going on here. And it's going to, basically what it's doing is this is going to, with great precision, it's going to describe the rise and the fall of the great empires of man. The Babylonians, which is the first one, the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and then ultimately the revived Roman Empire. So this image has this strength about it that you could see. There's strength in the empires of man, these great empires that we've seen rise and fall, but there's this little stone that comes and hits it on its feet, and the whole thing comes crumbling down. We're going to get into this a little bit more next week, but that is what we're kind of waiting for. If you're a Christian, you've been waiting for this time where Jesus comes back. He is that little stone, and all the governments of man are going to come tumbling down. All of this political nonsense that we're dealing with, there will be no more. He will set up his millennial kingdom. Jesus will rule and reign here on earth. Now, let's take a look at verse 36. It says, "This is the dream." So now he's telling them this dream, right? He says, "Now we will tell you the interpretation before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold." Wow. I mean, what a great privilege this man has to be this head of gold, and he's an ungodly man. Now, later on in the Word of God, we're going to see that he actually does end up giving his life over to God. But for right now, this is a wicked man who has done wicked things, and God says, "You are that head of gold." And there's a lot of reasons for that, and he's also saying he's the king, a king of kings. And Ezekiel alludes to that as well. He uses the same title for him. But he does say this. He says, the only reason you have this power is because God has given it to you. And that is something that you and I can take some joy in today to know that even though we do have some wicked people in office, God has a reason for it. Nobody has any power, nobody has any authority unless God gives it to them. This is the same words Jesus said to Pontius Pilate. Like, you think I can't call down legions of angels right now and just wipe you out? I could do that without even breathing. You know, it's so easy for me. You have no power and no authority over me unless I give it to you. And that's the truth about the God that we serve. Now, this head was gold. It's the most important. But not only that, this is the purest form of government according to God, a monarchy, where you have a king, and a king has a kingdom. Now, obviously, the purest form of a monarchy is the kingdom of heaven. God is king. He owns everything. We all serve him. That's the purest form of a monarchy. But that truly is, when you look at the governments of man, that was the purest form of government, and it gets more corrupt. We'll see it gets more corrupt as time goes by. And that's history. We can read the history books, the real ones, not the ones the left are pushing on our kids right now. But we can read the history books and see that it truly has gotten more and more corrupt as time goes by. Now, Daniel chapter 2, verse 39 says, After you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. So he's telling them, hey, there's other kingdoms. You're starting out, this kingdom of Babylon's there, but after you, there's going to be another kingdom. You're not going to be in control anymore. Daniel 7, verse 5 refers to the breast of the arms of silver as a bear. It says that I saw a second beast, and it looked like a bear. It was rearing up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And I heard a voice saying to it, Get up, devour the flesh of many people. So as you and I look back on history, we see that the empire that came in after the Babylonians was the Medo-Persians, and the 3 ribs in their mouth are the 3 great empires that they took over. They took over Babylon. They also took over Egypt and Lydia. And the third kingdom is likely the Greek Empire, the belly and the thighs being the largest in girth. And, you know, we look at that. I mean, that's how it is in a body, right? It's the largest area in girth. Well, Alexander the Great, that Grecian Empire, was the largest when you compare them. Like, when you look at the image, look at all these different empires. They were the largest one. Daniel chapter 7, verse 6 says that the third of these strange beasts appeared, and it looked like a leopard. It had 4 birds' wings on its back and had 4 heads. Great authority was given to this beast. So a leopard is known for sudden attacks. They're known to be fast, speedy. They swoop in and attack real fast. That's in Daniel 7. This is referring to the same segment of Daniel chapter 2. So this one, though, has 4 wings, which would make it even faster. But Alexander the Great, he was known for his sudden attacks. And after he died, they were divided. The Greek Empire was divided into 4 different parts. So thus the 4 heads. So very precise. When we continue on in the study, we're going to see that it's going to foretell things that we're supposed to be looking for right now. And if all of that was precise and all of that happened exactly how it said it would happen, then we should be able to trust everything it says is still going to happen. And that's what we want to walk away from. And understand this is there's a lot of things that have yet to happen, but we know that it can bring us peace even in the midst of some very terrible things. It can bring us peace to know that God has not appointed us for the wrath that is to come. So it is very important that we find ourselves in a relationship with Jesus. Amen? Amen. All right, so we're going to have our guest come out now. If you're new here, we do this every week. We get into Daniel, so we'd love to have you join us again. But our guest this evening is the founder of the Walk Away movement. He left the Democratic Party and walked away from the political left. His YouTube video about his decision to leave the party went viral and inspired Americans from all demographics to walk away with him. Now he provides commentary on channels like Fox News, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and now on Our Watch with Tim Thompson. So please welcome our guest tonight, Brandon Straka. Hey.
All right.
Good.
Good to
I said Brandon Straka, but it's Brandon Strock.
That's right.
Strock. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's good to see you.
Nobody says it right, so you're in good company.
All right. Well, it's good to have you on the program. We spoke together at the Unite IE Conservative Conference a few years back.
Yes.
You were there speaking with.
Oh, I don't have my mic on. I did that too. She told me to. She's like, remember to turn it on. Sorry, 1 sec. Good? There we go. Sorry about that.
So you were there speaking with what's her name? I'm drawing a blank.
Tommy Laren.
Tommy Laren.
Yeah.
So it was you and her
Yes.
on a panel. Pastor Jack Hibbs and Pastor Rob McCoy and myself were on a panel, and then we had Charlie Kirk and Larry Elder. It was a good fun day.
It was.
And when we were talking there, I was talking to you about school boards, and this was obviously pre-COVID. School boards mean a lot to me, and our kids mean a lot to me, and I know they mean a lot to you as well. And there's something else that connected us, though, besides that we spoke at some conference together a few years back. Something that connected us, I think more importantly, is the fact that there are a couple of guys that go to the church that I pastor who were arrested during the January 6th event, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Call it an event, at the Capitol. And you were arrested that day as well, not that day, but because of that day as well.
Yes.
And the two guys that go to this church, the church that I pastor, they went through some horrific things. And I know you did as well. And they're still working their way through the system right now, trying to figure out what's going to happen to them. Mm-hmm. You've already gone through all that pain, and you're still suffering a lot from that.
Yes.
So tell me what you were doing there on January 6th. What was your point in being there?
Well, I went to D.C. on January 6th because I was asked to be a speaker at the Capitol. So because this incident has been so misreported from the very beginning, and just so everyone knows, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, and so you'll often, yeah, you can clap at that. And so you might hear me criticize Republicans and conservatives a few times tonight, but please know that I am one, and I'm criticizing my own people. But I'm disappointed in the way that the conservative media ran from this story from the very beginning, because I do think that there was an opportunity from the get-go to set the record straight to a certain degree, so that so many of us who got ensnared in what I believe is a trap didn't have to suffer as much as we have, and we continue to. So one thing that a lot of people don't know is that there was supposed to be an event at the Capitol that day, another event. As it was explained to me from the beginning, President Trump and a number of people were going to speak at the Ellipse. There would be a march from the Ellipse to the Capitol, and when we got to the Capitol, there would be another stage setup of some kind, and I was going to be one of dozens of people speaking that day. And I actually saw all of the graphics. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, it could have easily been maybe 100 people were scheduled to speak that day. So I was headed, I sat at the Ellipse, I listened to President Trump speak. I then headed to the Capitol on the DC Metro. I didn't get to do the march. I wanted to do the march, but I had hired security who told me, not that they were concerned about my safety, but honestly that they were concerned that I wouldn't get there on time, because they thought, everyone's going to want to stop and take pictures, and so you have to take the DC Metro. And so I was on the DC Metro on my way to the Capitol, and I was very close to the stop where we would get out and walk there, and I started getting messages on my phone from colleagues and coworkers and friends who were at home across the country watching on television, and they were telling me, we're hearing on the news that people are going inside the building. I didn't know what that meant, but the first thought that I got in my mind was the number of times that left-wing activists have gone inside of government buildings to protest a variety of events, from Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation to abortion issues, things like that. And I mean, honestly, they do it quite frequently, and nothing ever really seems to happen to them when they do. And so the other thing was that I didn't really conjure up an image in my mind of very many people going inside. It's hard to remember exactly what I was thinking now, but my instinct is that I was thinking that we might be talking about a dozen people, or we might be talking about 8 people who went inside. And I'm thinking these are Trump supporters. And for anyone who doesn't know, I have an organization called Walk Away. For 3 or 4 years, I've been traveling the country doing events. And I get frustrated because I can't even get conservatives to like leave their house and come to an event and hold a sign. And so now I'm being told conservatives are going inside the Capitol building, and I thought that sounds unusual. And so as I was approaching the building, I began shooting a video, and I turned record on I was using my phone, and I hit record when I was probably about 3 full blocks away from the building. And here's another thing that a lot of people may not know. Because this has been so badly reported on and misreported in so many ways, most people who weren't there probably think that if you were at the Capitol on January 6th, you witnessed violence, or you witnessed window smashing, or you witnessed struggles with police officers. When in fact, all of that activity was taking place on one side of the building, the west side, for a very limited period of time, and from a very small number of people. There were hundreds of thousands of people, minimum, at the Capitol. And there were people on the north, south, east, and west sides of the building. This was happening on one side in a very contained period of time with a very small group of people. I was approaching the Capitol from the east side grounds, so the opposite side of where this is happening. I'm shooting my video. As I'm walking onto the grounds, and by the way, this video is available for anyone to watch online. It exists in several different online forums, so you don't even need to take my word for anything I'm saying today. You can watch with your own eyes and see if anything I'm telling you is untrue. In my video, what you see is I'm entering the East Side Capitol grounds, and there are 0 police officers on the East Side grounds. I don't mean not many. I don't mean a handful. I mean 0 police officers. There were no closed barricades. There were no tape, no traffic cones. Nobody standing there saying you're not allowed to be here. In fact, the sidewalks were completely open. People were standing everywhere. People were very calm. There's a woman in my video pushing her baby in a stroller. People standing around talking in circles, having conversations. And I approached the Capitol, and there were, I'd say, several thousand people standing on the steps on the east side. And there's a man in my video on the east side standing at the top of the steps, looking down at the people below and going like this and shouting, "They've opened the doors. They're letting us in. We're going inside. We're going inside." And at that point, I repeated what he said. I said, "We're going inside. We're going inside." And I walked up to the top of the steps on the east side. And when I got there, as you'll see in my video, there's 2 large metal doors of the Capitol on the east side. They were both wide open. And there was a group of probably several hundred people standing at the top of the stairs. And the vast majority of them were just standing there filming. And there were some people trying to make their way inside. I'm not going to say it was the calmest atmosphere I've ever been in, but I can tell you it was not violent. I would not use the word riot under any circumstances, but it was a large group of people, and some people were kind of shoving and trying to make their way in. I stood there filming for about 8 minutes. I never went inside the Capitol. I never got within 35 feet of going inside of the Capitol. And after about 8 minutes, a man came outside of the building. I'm assuming he was a protester, but I couldn't tell you for sure. He looked like a protester. He got on a bullhorn, and he used some rather colorful language, which I won't repeat. But basically what he said was, "They've cleared Congress. Everybody's left the building. Clear out, clear out." At that moment, I immediately turned around, and I left. And I even told the people behind me, "They're saying to clear out. Go this way." Nobody listened to me. I walked down the stairs, and I stood out on the outer grounds for about another 20 or 30 minutes and shot about 13 street interviews with people asking, "Why did you come here today? What did you see? What was your experience?" From there, I went back to my hotel room. When I got back to my hotel room, I uploaded the video that I had shot to Twitter. And I don't remember. I think I said, "This is what I witnessed today at the Capitol," something along those lines. And then about an hour after that, I turned on my television from my hotel room. And that's when I turned on the news and I started to see footage that was filmed on the west side of the building. That was the first time that I started to see windows being smashed, struggles with police officers, flashbangs going off, things like that. I thought to myself, what is this? This is nothing like what I witnessed on the other side of the building. And I instantly became really concerned because I thought to myself, number one, I don't know how bad this situation got or how far this went or what happened. And number two, I don't want anyone to think that I condoned whatever this is or that I was a part of it. So I immediately deleted my video that I had uploaded to Twitter. So this video that I shot lived on Twitter for maybe an hour or 2 hours tops before I deleted it. I also deleted all of the tweets that I had written that day about January 6th. I didn't want to be associated in any way because, again, I didn't know how bad it was, and I didn't even understand what I was seeing. And with that, I kind of just moved on with my life. I flew back home the next day. I got back to work. I started moving forward with my plans for the next year. And people were asking me every day, "Are you scared? Are you scared?" And I said, "No. Why? I didn't do anything. What would I be scared of?" And now I will say there were Twitter trolls, as we call them, that had already copied my video, even though it only existed online for about an hour or two. They had already copied it, and they were mass reposting it and tagging the FBI and telling the FBI to come and arrest me. I was starting to get a little nervous about that because it was getting worse, not better. Normally, something passes after a couple of days, maybe a week, something like that. But when we were getting into week 2, it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I will let you talk tonight, I promise.
I'm loving hearing you tell the story.
Okay. If you want, I can just do this myself.
Believe me, I will interject when it's time.
It's my show now. No, it's better just to set the stage and then the questions, just so you kind of understand the setup. So we're now at January 23rd or January 24th of 2021, and I read a tweet as I was about to go to bed that it was unnerving. And again, I had already for days been watching these people post my video and tag the FBI, and I was getting a little nervous. But there was a tweet that I read that said, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, "Don't sleep too well. FBI knocks come at 6 a.m." And I kind of was like, ooh, like it just gave me this really ugly feeling. And I can't remember if it was the next morning or the morning after that, but it was January 25th, Monday, January 25th, 2021. I woke up at the crack of dawn to the sound of knocking at my door, just knocking. And my first thought was, why is my maintenance guy here so early in the morning? Like, why can't he come later? And right as I was having that thought, the knocking changed to boom, 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 boom. And I just shot up in bed. And the first thing I thought of was that tweet that I had just read, FBI knocks come at 6 a.m. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is really happening. They really did come. And I went running to the door, and because I knew from the way they were pounding that the next step was to knock it down. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was pretty clear. And I went running to the door, and I said, "Who is it?" And I heard a voice say, "FBI, open up." And I opened the door, and there were about 8 or 9 agents on the other side in tactical gear with weapons. They presented me with a search warrant, turned me around and put me in handcuffs, and told me I was facing multiple felony charges for what I had done on January 6th. You can ask a question now.
Well, it sickens me to know you went through that, and I know the 2 men that go to the church that I pastor. I know what they and their wives, their children, have had to go through because similar things happened to them. You know, doors were blown off the hinges, flashbangs thrown into their home. With children there, and they didn't go into the Capitol. They didn't do anything. And this kind of stuff happens. So they arrest you. They put you in jail, right? I mean, you were in jail for a few days.
I was. They came and got me in a blizzard. My attorney thought that was intentional. I'm not so sure, but knowing how this entire process went, I would not put it past them. They came and picked me up in the middle of a blizzard, and so in that incident, they presented me with a search warrant. So the majority of the agents came into my apartment with their gloves and began collecting my things and putting them into boxes. They took computers, iPads, phones, hard drives, thumb drives, any kind of storage device, cameras, clothing.
Did you have a MAGA hat? They probably took that if you had.
No, but you know, so it's sort of funny side story. Right before I went to D.C., I was in Georgia because I was actually doing a door-knocking volunteer campaign for the Senate runoff elections with Perdue and Loeffler. We were trying to fight for those 2 Senate seats in Georgia, and it was very hot. I mean, it was pretty warm in Georgia, and I hadn't even made up my mind to go to D.C. It was a very last-minute decision to do that. So when I got to D.C., the first thing I did was I went out and I bought a new coat because I had no coat, and I bought all new stuff. I bought gloves and a hat and sunglasses and a coat and all this stuff. And so everything I was wearing that day, they collected. They took my sunglasses. They took, my tie clip. It was just, I mean, it's absurd, like the things that they'll grab. But yeah, for most people, they went in, they took if there was any Trump memorabilia, MAGA hats, which sends a very chilling message, by the way. I mean, it's when they're gathering your memorabilia for the political candidate that you support as evidence of your terrorism,
right?
That's a very chilling message that I hope everybody's paying attention to.
Right. Well, I mean, you even look at the rhetoric coming from our current president.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. These MAGA people.
Ultra MAGA.
Oh, yeah, ultra MAGA. Yeah. It took them a long time to come up with that, though.
And who's insulted by that? It's so great. I'm going to wear an ultra MAGA shirt every day and a little crown.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, didn't he just call, what did he call Trump? The something king?
Yeah, the MAGA king.
MAGA king.
MAGA king.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. I mean, he's actually creating our T-shirts for us at this point.
Right. Yeah. By the way, I was this close to asking everybody to chant "Let's Go Brandon" when you were on your way out, but so you can add. Oh, you got the "Let's Go Brandon."
Thank you. Thank you.
But they arrest you. You're in jail 3 days.
Yep, they took me to jail. Yes, and can I talk a little bit?
How fun was that?
Yeah. Can I talk about the process because
sure,
I want people to know that too. Now, okay, so first of all, I want you guys to know that, and I'm not saying that they didn't tell me what I was charged with. I can tell you that I was in a state of disorientation, fear, and trauma. And
you were in the state they wanted you in.
Precisely.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And if they did tell me, I did not remember what I was charged with. The only words that were ringing in my head were your multiple felony charges for what you did at the Capitol. So they take me to jail, and when I got there, there was kind of the pre-processing where, they take your wallet, they take your money, they put all your money in an envelope. They're just anything that you might have on, they're taking away from you. And then they took me inside the actual processing room, and the first thing that they did was put me on an X and took my mugshot. And after taking my mugshot, they walked me over to a counter and printed my mugshot off into a bracelet that had a number on it. And at that moment, I stopped having a name, and I just became a number inside the jail inmate system. And I had to wear that mugshot bracelet on my wrist. And from there, they took me into a room that was like a concrete, almost like a shower stall, a concrete shower stall. I had to take all of my clothes off, stand completely naked in front of a stranger who came and took my clothes away from me. And then he came back and gave me a pair of brown boxer shorts, a brown T-shirt, a pair of orange pants, an orange smock, and a pair of plastic sandals. Now, 1 hour before this, I was in my bed, sleeping peacefully, having a lovely dream. Now I'm wearing my own mugshot on my wrist with a number, and I'm in an orange jumpsuit. And from there, they took me into a room called medical. And when I got inside medical, there was a nurse guard inside who, when I walked in, one of the first things he said to me was, "I need your arm." And I said, "Why?" And he went and got a syringe, and he came to me, and he said, "All new inmates in the jail system have to take a TB test. It's mandatory." And so I extended my arm, and he slid a needle into my skin and injected a substance into my arm, which formed a bubble. And this complete stranger, told me that if that bubble turns blue or purple, I might want to let somebody know. Okay, not sure who. Is there an HR department that I can? Because I'd kind of like to talk to them right now. From there, they took me to a room called intake evaluation, where a very sort of military-like, no-nonsense guy was sitting there, and he told me right from the beginning, he said, "I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions." He said, "It's going to be very uncomfortable." He said, it's going to feel very inappropriate." He said, "But this is just standard procedure." And I said, "Let her rip." So he starts asking me questions like, "Do you have AIDS? Have you ever had sex with a man? Are you feeling suicidal? Have you ever been involved in a gang?" But my favorite question of all was, "If a fight breaks out in the jail, are you able to defend yourself?" Sure. Of course I am. But I mean, these moments are just building layers and layers and layers and levels of just trauma and complete disbelief. Again, just hours before, I was sleeping in my own home, in my own bed peacefully. And from there, they took me out and allowed me to make a phone call, and I called the executive director of Walkaway, my friend and executive director, Libby Albert. She's the most competent and capable person I know. And okay, I'm going to try not to cry. I cry every time I say this, but this is going to be the time that I don't. So I told her what was going on. And the first thing that we did was called Harmeet Dillon, the attorney. Do you guys know Harmeet?
Oh, yeah.
She's done some First Amendment lawyering on stuff for us before, so we already knew her. She also was the one telling me weeks in advance that she thought I was going to get visited by the FBI, and I was like, "No, I'm not. It's going to be fine." And she was like, "Okay, if the FBI comes," she said, "call me. I'll make sure you get a good criminal defense attorney." So we got Harmeet on the phone. We began the process of trying to find me an attorney. Her first suggestion was a man named Bill Asaley, who I think we actually might be talking to a little later tonight. Bill ended up becoming one of my attorneys on this case. I had two. But as we're working this all out, the guard came over to the phone where I was, and I knew I had to get off the phone. And at that moment, I was so scared. I'm very, very, very claustrophobic, and this experience was already scary. And I had already been hearing rumblings just through the process of getting processed that they were going to put me in lockdown 23 hours a day in the cell. I was hearing people say that. And I was just like, when you're in a situation like this, you'll find any reason to lie to yourself that you can, even if you can only get by with that lie for 20 minutes or so. If you can buy 20 minutes of a little less trauma, you'll take it. And so as I'm hearing this, I'm like, okay, maybe they're talking about someone else. Maybe they're talking about something else. Maybe I heard them wrong. But I've got a pretty good idea that I'm going to be put in lockdown. And so I told Libby, my executive director, that I had to go. They were coming, and she said to me, "Listen," she said, "I want you to know that there are going to be long periods of time where you're going to feel really scared, you're going to feel really alone, and you're not going to know what's you're not going to know what's going on." And she said, "I just want you to know, we are not going to stop fighting until we get you out of there. We will not stop until you're free. So don't even worry about that." And so I said, "Okay, thank you." And hung up the phone, and they took me upstairs to my cell block. And that's when I found out that they were putting me in lockdown. And They took me up to my cell, which was a, I don't know, 8 by 8 foot concrete room with a bunk bed and a metal toilet and a sink and a metal door with a vertical window about this big that you could either look at with your left eye or your right eye, but not both at the same time. And they closed the door, and then I spent 2 days in that room before somebody came back and opened the door. And while I was in that room, all I could think of for 2 straight days was that Joe Biden had become president 5 days before this. The Democrats are now in full control of the federal government. I'm Brandon Straka, the walk away from the Democratic Party guy, thank you. And that I'm facing multiple felony charges for January 6th, and that I don't know what they are. And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, they're going to charge you with treason. They're going to charge you with terrorism, insurrection, and I truly, 100% legitimately believed that I would never see freedom again. Never. I thought they're going to extradite me to D.C., because this happened in Nebraska. They picked me up in Nebraska. They're going to extradite me to D.C. I'm going to sit in D.C. No judge is going to let me out. I'm going to go to trial. I'm going to be found guilty at trial because of who these people are and what's going on. And I'm going to end up getting a sentence of 20 or 30 years. And I'm never going to see my grandmother again. I'm never going to see my parents again. And I started sort of thinking of all of the things that were never going to happen in my life. I thought, I'm certainly never going to have children. I'm just literally kissing the life that I thought I was going to have goodbye. But as it turns out, 2 days later, somebody came, opened the door, and told me I had an attorney phone call. And so I went down and I spoke to my attorney on the phone. I didn't know who he was. This is somebody that my team had found. But he told me that he had already spoken with the prosecutor in D.C. He said that they're not really interested in detaining you. He said, we have a hearing today with a judge. He said, there's about a 99% chance the judge is going to order your release. And then 3 or 4 hours after that, I went to court. I stood unshowered, in my orange jumpsuit in front of a judge while a federal judge told me that this was the case of the United States of America versus Brandon Straka, and he ordered my release. And then after midnight on the second day, I was let out. So that was jail.
So keep this in mind, okay? You can go out to L.A., you can rape somebody, and just walk right on out. They bring you into the jail, give you, I don't know what they give you. They just put, you're out on the street. George Gascon, the DA out there, no, we're not going to do nothing about that.
Sure.
So you can rape somebody and you're out walking, but God forbid you stand outside of a building and videotape.
Correct.
I mean, it's unbelievable what's happened to you and so many other people, and what you've had to go through is just unreal.
Well, I mean, honestly, that was just the beginning. I got out of jail, and the next morning I got to meet my attorney in person.
Was it Bill Asaley at the time, or
no? So
okay.
Bill Asaley lives in California, and Bill has been what I call him my secondary attorney, because he certainly worked on my case and he certainly consulted on my case. But what I call my primary attorney was in the state of Nebraska. So it was an attorney that I could go to his office and talk to him throughout the year. And so my attorney, finally I got the opportunity to understand what I was being accused of and what the charges were. So I was charged with 2 felonies and a misdemeanor. So the first felony was knowingly occupying restricted grounds. So it's kind of a fancy word for trespassing on the steps. But in this case, trespassing on the steps is a federal felony charge. And the misdemeanor charge was disorderly conduct with an intent to disrupt a hearing before Congress. But the other felony was, my attorney is telling me, you're charged with a felony of impeding a police officer in the line of duty. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, in your video, and I didn't make this clear before, because remember when I said I was standing on the steps of the Capitol, there were hundreds of people around, the doors were open? I'm about 5'10". There's a lot of guys that were there, people that were there that were 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". Many people were carrying flags on poles, very tall poles that were hanging down. I couldn't see a thing, and the doors were about 35 feet away. So what I did was I held my arms like this while my camera was recording, and I pointed it down toward the door so that my camera could see what my eyes could not. And my hand to God, I never watched my own video. I went back to my hotel room and I uploaded it to Twitter. I deleted it an hour or two later. I never watched it again. So I never saw what was on it, never. And my attorney says, on your video, there's a moment where one Capitol police officer comes to the door frame of the open doors of the Capitol. And when he gets there, somebody grabs his shield out of his hand. And as his shield is being grabbed out of his hand, you hear several voices from the crowd saying things like, take it, take his shield, take his shield. Well, the FBI says that they know conclusively that that's your voice and that you were shouting, take the shield, to encourage the crowd to take a shield from an officer. And they're charging you with a felony for saying the words, take it, or take the shield, to encourage the crowd. Now, what's interesting about this is I immediately, vehemently denied this. And my attorney went back to the prosecution and said, he says he doesn't know what you're talking about and that never happened. The prosecution watches my video and gets back and says, well, we're not so sure he said, take the shield, but we hear a voice saying, take it, and we think he's the one saying, take it. Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is very interesting because you sent a SWAT team to my apartment to pick me up and put me in jail because the biggest charge against me was that I said the words, take the shield, but you're already backing off that and saying, yeah, it's not voice A, but we think it's voice B. And so what ended up happening at that point is we began the process of initiating a plea deal, and that the goal of the plea deal was to get the felony charges dropped. And my lawyer told me from the beginning, you're going to have to plead to a misdemeanor. I mean, that's the least of how this will work out. And I thought to myself, okay, I can plead guilty to a misdemeanor if I have to. But what happened was, as a condition of my plea deal and pleading guilty to this misdemeanor, I had to admit that I was the person saying, take it on the video. And so I did. I signed it, and now if you Google my name, you will find 25 pages of stories from the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, BuzzFeed, Vice, and everything you can imagine, talking about how I went to the Capitol to encourage an attack on a police officer. And that is now the truth.
You have been through quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you went through the plea deal.
Yes.
You ended up on house arrest.
Yes.
For how long?
3 months. But I'll also just quickly say, too, because I confessed to saying, take it, and it was reported in the press that I went to encourage, and I encouraged an attack on an officer, virtually every leftist big tech organization you can think of used this as an excuse to cancel me. So the moment that became the narrative, I got permanently banned from using PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, Patreon, email services like MailChimp and Constant Contact. My two organizations, Walkaway Foundation and Walkaway PAC, both had their donor portals banned from being able to take in donations. We had our email services banned, so we couldn't even email our donors and tell them that we had been canceled. And the excuse or the justification for all of this was, you encouraged an attack on an officer on January 6th. We can't allow you to send and receive money. We can't allow you to be able to email people. We can't allow you to. So my life just began systematically becoming annihilated because, now, mind you, there are leaders. In New York City, there's a Black Lives Matter leader of the chapter of the New York City chapter of Black Lives Matter. His name is Hawk Newsom. Hawk Newsom was recently in the news for stating that if the new mayor of New York City does not give Black Lives Matter what they want, and this is a direct quote, he said, there will be bloodshed, there will be riots, and there will be fires, burning fires, bloodshed, riots, something like that. He still has access to PayPal, Venmo, Stripe,
Sure.
Patreon, and all these
Right.
accounts, and he's still raising money as we speak.
He could probably fly without worrying about TSA also.
Oh, yes. Well, I got put on a TSA terrorism watch list. So now when I'm allowed to fly, but when I fly now, I have a designation which is called Quad S. So when I go to the airport, it takes me 30 minutes to be able to just to check in because the airline has to call TSA. TSA has to go through this checklist. Is he carrying firearms? Is he doing this? And it takes 30 minutes to get through that. And then they give me my boarding pass. Then when I get my boarding pass, I go up to security, and they have to close off a special security lane just for me. And they have a team of about 8 or 9 TSA agents come over to that gate, and I have to walk through the metal detector twice. I have to walk through the body scanner twice. And then they take every item out of my bag and swab it and test it for explosive materials. They give me a full body pat down, which includes putting their hand down my pants in the front and the back and going over every inch of my body. They take pictures of my boarding passes. They take pictures of my ID. And then when I get done with that screening process, everything takes about 2 hours. When I get done with that, they have a team of TSA agents follow me around the airport. Sometimes they have dogs. And if I go and I'm sitting at my gate waiting for my flight to begin boarding, there'll be an agent stationed there and 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 stationed there, and there's a dog over there and there's a dog over there. And then when it's time to board the flight and everybody's getting in line to get on, they bring a special machine over and they go through everything in my bag again. And they test everything in my bag and they test it for explosive materials and they pat me down and they do all of this in front of the other passengers who are now terrified to get on the plane with me. And God forbid I have to bend over and tie my shoe. Like while I'm on the plane, they're like, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been fun.
So I want to get into the walkaway movement. Before we get into that, you've been doing what you're doing. You've been doing this a long time, the whole walkaway movement. Clearly, you have made relationships with lots of elected officials.
Yes.
A lot of people know who you are.
Yes.
How much help did you get during this whole, because this is a whole year of a bunch of garbage that you've had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
How many people came to stand by you during this?
0. Not a single Republican in Congress reached out to me. Not a single one of my higher level contacts reached out to me. Now, I did reach out to several members of Congress who I knew, and 3 got on the phone with me. Just to be safe, I'm going to say 4, but I think it was just 3. Took a phone call with me. It was nice of them to do that, but it wasn't very helpful. I mean, and I don't want to scare anybody, but I mean, I can tell you that, I don't know, I guess I always had a perception as an American citizen that if you become a member of Congress, there's a little bit of an elite status that allows you some protection or a little bit of a higher level of security, perhaps. And I'm telling you, these members of Congress were basically telling me, you know, everybody's scared. Like, we're all scared. We're scared to get involved. We're scared because if we help you, or if we help, you know, and they're not even saying they can help me, but they're basically saying, you know, if anyone gets involved, we're afraid that we're going to get subpoenaed by the J6 committee, and then they're going to go through our phones and our emails, and nobody wants to touch it. And so, yeah, everyone's just running for cover. Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I saw one member of Congress who really got involved and was really trying to do well for the people who were involved. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I spoke to her.
She came here. She actually came here and spoke at the church I pastor. And after she was done, she met our guys. You know, she went back to D.C. and she had a fire lit under her.
Yeah.
And she was actually trying to do something. But I watched as everybody did exactly what you're talking about. They just, and they didn't want to engage. They didn't want to stand for what's right.
Right.
And it takes the wind out of your sail when you're trying to stand for truth. You're trying to stand for righteousness in a world that, let's face it, just doesn't want that.
Right.
It's hard because you get people that you would think should have your back and they don't.
Well, do you know what I think the worst part about that is I mean, certainly there's the very obvious aspect of how it made me feel. That was pretty bad. But in my opinion, I think the worst part about it is the message that it sends to the left. because the left is watching all of this happen. Not only are they attacking us and targeting us and coming after us and destroying us, they're also watching how we react. Will we stand up for each other? Will we protect each other? Or will we make it easy for them to come and get us like sheep to a slaughter? And what we have shown them through this experience is that they can come and take you away and abduct you from your own home and take you to DC or take you wherever, and you're never heard from again. And nobody will do anything about it. No one will say a word. Life will go on. We'll all just pretend like it's not happening. And they know that now. They know that now. Now they have that information. So imagine what's going to happen next year or the year after that.
Well, and let's face it, this is their goal in all of this is to get you to shut up.
Right.
That's they want anybody with a voice. This is why they went after you so hard and so fast. Was you have a voice, you have a platform, you have a lot of people that follow what you do, and they don't want you to speak out. In fact, you said that the judge actually used that as reason to sentence you harder.
Yes, and that was never even a secret. It's not even like that's speculation. They said it. They directly said it. So now, bear in mind, I've taken this plea deal. It's so ridiculous. It's a Class B misdemeanor charge. I mean, this is my lawyer. One of my lawyers said, he's like, it's like if you play your music too loud outside, whatever. Like it's literally like that level of a crime.
Was that Bill Saley's voice?
No, that was
okay.
No, that was my other lawyer, Stu. Stu's like a good old. He's he's an older guy, and he's just like from another time kind of. But he well, I didn't mean that. No. I didn't mean that as an insult. All I meant by that is that it was kind of unfortunate because he's been doing this for decades and decades, and I think that in his mind we still live in a world where you can be a Democrat and you can be a Republican, but there's still sort of like a gentlemanly interaction that happens between prosecutors and defense attorneys, and that there's a respect for the craft of law, and that that there's a respectability that goes on between. I think he was very blindsided by how dirty the DOJ is. I don't think that he realized what the world is like now. And so I wasn't trying to insult his age. I was just saying that I think that I just think that he was used to something very different throughout most of his career. And but anyway, so it's a Class B misdemeanor charge. And when the government presented us with their sentencing recommendation for me, it was a 30-page sentencing recommendation. So my attorneys both said to me, between the two of them, they have a total of like 50 or 60 years of federal criminal trial experience. They were like, one of my attorneys, Bill, he said, I have handled cases of networks of drug cartels where we're dealing with a network of defendants on serious felony crimes. He said, I've never seen a 30-page sentencing recommendation in my life. This is for a misdemeanor, 30 pages. So in this 30 pages, they're saying things like, Mr. Straka is the founder of this walkaway movement. He has a large following. This makes him a particular risk to the community. People are listening to him. He has influence. God only knows what he might do next, where he might take his camera next. We don't know. So yeah, they were very clear from the beginning that I needed to be punished severely as a deterrent because of my following and my influence. And so I ended up getting sentenced to, now this is after I've spent 2.5 days in jail, a year on pretrial supervision. Then I ended up getting 3 months of house arrest where I had to put an ankle monitor on and I wasn't allowed to leave my home for 3 months. And then I'm on 3 years of probation, 60 hours of community service. The government actually didn't request a fine, but the judge thought that what I did was so terrible that she imposed the maximum fine of $5,000. And I was also ordered to pay $500 restitution to the Capitol, although it was acknowledged.
Because of all the damage you did.
Right. It was acknowledged that I didn't do any damage or destruction, but that I had to pay the restitution to the Capitol. I also was ordered to take court-ordered mental therapy sessions, because obviously I voted for Trump, so I'm insane. And the government as a condition of my 3 years of probation, the prosecution requested the right to be able to surveil my phone, my computer, my email, my bank accounts, my social media accounts for 3 years. But the judge actually did not grant them that. That was the big win in my case.
We are. I didn't realize how much time is going by. We've got so much that I wanted to get to. So let's shift gears because we also want to get Bill Asaley on here.
Sure.
Let's shift gears. So the whole idea in this is they want to shut you up. They do not want the walkaway movement to succeed.
Correct.
And it's already been highly successful.
Thank you.
So the walkaway, well, thank you for what you've done with that. It's highly successful. So just for anybody who might not know, or anybody who's watching online, what is the walkaway movement, and how did you start it?
I started Walkaway in May of 2018 after being a lifelong liberal. I was a lifelong Democrat. I voted for Obama twice. I actually voted for Hillary in 2016. Like, I don't even know how to progress with the story if you guys don't do that. So I voted for Hillary in 2016, and when Trump got elected, I was just shocked and confused and outraged. And long story short, I was very, very angry, and I did a lot of sort of online posting expressing my feelings about all of you people who voted for him. And and in January of 2017, I posted on Facebook that I would never be able to understand how anybody could vote for a man who was capable of standing before a cheering crowd and mocking a reporter's disability. Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? Okay. So that day, a friend of mine, she actually wasn't my friend. She was my babysitter when I was little, and I kind of didn't like her very much because she was a staunch Christian conservative. And in my mind, I'm like, you're over here and I'm over here, and you used to babysit me, but like our relationship ends there, okay? And but she reached out to me privately, and she just said, look, I'm not trying to like start something with you. I'm just asking, have you seen this? And she sent me a link to a video that was entitled Debunking that Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter. Now, I saw the title of this video, and just the title of the video like sent me into a rage. And then I went from rage to pure glee because I was like, oh, I can't wait to watch this and tell her how stupid she is for falling for it. You're so stupid, Diane, for falling for this Fox News propaganda. So I watched the video, and what it ended up being was a compilation of footage that showed Donald Trump doing that exact same voice and that exact same gesture as he did that day at his rally. But it made it very clear that this is a bit that Donald Trump does anytime he's imitating anybody who's flailing because they're caught in a lie or they're doing something shady or dishonest. Had nothing whatsoever to do with that reporter's disability. The reporter happened to be disabled, but Donald Trump was imitating the fact that he was caught in a lie. So he's going like, oh, I don't know, But then CNN froze it when he was like this, and put a picture of the reporter up next to him, and the reporter does have an arm that is like this, and they said Donald Trump mocks a reporter's disability. Well, this clearly showed that he didn't, and I was so confused when I saw. I was just like, what's happening? And so I kind of went on a journey of research at that point to try to understand how often the media lies and why they lie, and that journey of research went on for many months throughout 2017 and resulted in me walking away from the Democratic Party and liberalism. And
I remember watching your video.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
I was a liberal.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And, it was... I got really, really enraged when I realized that not only was the media deceptive and manipulative and dishonest and blatantly lying and making up narratives, but that particularly if you're a minority in America, a black person, a brown person, an LGBT person, they are specifically targeting these minority communities and telling and engaging in mass exploitation and manipulation, which is causing so much division in this country and so much hatred. But I think even worse, it's causing this extreme fear of conservatives, of Republicans, and of people like Donald Trump. And when I realized that, that's what made me really, really angry and decided that I wanted to do something about it and speak out. So I created this video that you're referencing where I talked about all of the reasons why I was walking away from liberalism in the Democratic Party. And I created a Facebook group called the #WalkAway campaign. And I encouraged other people who were feeling the same to create their own videos and written testimonials. And within about 2 to 3 years, we had 510,000 people join this group and tens of thousands of video and written testimonials of people telling their stories about why the Democrats suck.
So in your journey and doing all this research, you're a part of one of those minority groups.
Yes.
And
I'm black.
You're black. Well,
Yes.
clearly. So you're a part of one of those minority groups. And as you did the research, did you see where you were being lied to? Oh,
yeah. So I'm gay. I don't want to shock you guys. I know. You're like, oh, but you're so masculine. Yeah, no, I mean, that was a huge catalyst for me because I was terrified when Donald Trump got elected because I really believed, I mean, reputable news sources were like saying that he was going to come and round up black people and gay people and take us off to concentration camps. And ironically, that's what Joe Biden did to me.
Yeah.
Everything that I was afraid that would happen under Trump actually did happen to me under Biden within the first 5 days. But yeah, no, I was legitimately terrified. And it made me really mad because I realized that, I mean, I think to manipulate people's fear and exploit fear within entire communities and cause those communities to be really sort of ghettoized in a way. I mean, to have to sort of be siloed and fragmented off and feel like they're not safe anywhere but under the careful, watchful eye of the Democrat Party, I think is really unconscionable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and they come out with this stuff so quickly. You know, I've been being very, very focused on trying to get new school board members elected onto our school, you know, conservative school board members. And you look at the left and what they say about me, and immediately I am bringing hate into our community.
Right.
I hate LGBT people. I hate black people. I'm a racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic bigot.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm a homophobe too now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, like, they come out very quick and say this man is filled with hate.
Right.
And have you felt any hate from me at all?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
All right.
I mean, I was late for dinner.
So just like I just want to say, to the Temecula Unity group that loves to watch what we put out, here's a gay man. He doesn't feel like I hate him at all. Christians don't hate gay people.
No.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous that they spew this kind of stuff into our culture, but they're trying to divide our nation.
Right. Well, it's actually quite ironic in a way because you look at someone like yourself, many other people, you've actually given me a platform to tell my story. You've given me a platform to share the truth. And you've been very kind and loving to me throughout the process of us engaging in this experience and before at dinner, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk in the future. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the left, the party of tolerance, and no, why are you laughing? What? Not just the left, but I mean, even the LGBT community within the left, no one has been more vicious and unkind to me throughout this experience, and not just this experience, but from the moment that I started Walkaway. And I find it so incredibly ironic in the ugliest possible way, because those groups on the left, whether it's racial identity groups or LGBT people who are on the far left, their whole mission statement is essentially that they're fighting back against oppression, the ways in which they're being victimized, and the freedoms that are being taken away from them by people on the right. Okay. But meanwhile, if you go over to the right and you do something like I've done, which is create an organization or a movement which has been hugely supported by conservatives, I have been treated with so much love, so much support, so much kindness. None of what's happened to me over the last few years could have happened if conservatives hated me or didn't support me in any way, shape, or form. Right. But the left and the LGBT community on the left is trying to destroy everything that I'm doing because they hate the idea that LGBT people might have more freedom, choice, and opportunity and the ability to come and vote Republican if they want to vote Republican, vote independent if they want to vote independent. So the same people who are crying victimhood and oppression are saying, you are not allowed to believe this, you're not allowed to think that, and you sure as hell can't vote this way, you only can vote this way. So who's really the oppressors around here?
Right. I'm going to ask two final questions. I'll ask them both and just let you run. And while you answer, I'm going to try to get Bill on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you guys. We're running a little late. You guys good? Good. Okay. All right. So I want to ask you. So we all know Democrats. I don't know that many of them, but I mean, everybody knows somebody that's a Democrat. How would you suggest that we try to engage in conversations with them? Because one of the things, like you even said it, that, you got a video and you're like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And it's like, how do we break through with that? What's the best way to approach with a liberal Democrat? How do we start that conversation to start to reason with them? That's question number one. And then number two is, what are some of the best conversions from being a Democrat to walking away from the Democrat Party? What are some of the biggest names or some of your greatest victories in that?
Oh, interesting. That's a good question. Okay, so I told you my memory is not so good these days. So your first question was effective strategies.
Yeah, how do we approach it with a Democrat?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing that I would say is know when to pick your battles. I think that that's really key. And intuitively, most human beings with a little bit of emotional sensitivity and intelligence can know. I mean, if somebody's got blood, they're foaming at the mouth and they're screaming at you, and they're like, you're probably not going to convert that person today. Maybe try someone else another time. But I think that if you find someone who, even if they're angry and defensive and they don't really want to hear what you have to say, the strategy that ended up working for me, and I think is a very effective strategy, is to, number one, allow somebody the space and the opportunity to experience something on their own in a safe environment where they can process it the way that they need to process it. What worked for me was that somebody reached out to me in a private message on Facebook, sent me a link to a video, and didn't say to me, here's proof that you're wrong, or here's why everything you believe is stupid. What she said was, I'm just asking if you've seen this, and if not, will you watch it and tell me what you think? And she allowed me the space to watch it, and by the way, I watched it 4 times over the course of 24 hours before I responded to her, and by then my mind was like shattered into 1,000 pieces, because I was like, CNN doesn't tell the truth? What? But it was non-confrontational, and it allowed me to sort of process in my own space and take the time that I needed to do it. And the thing that I think I really loved about the approach was it was in the form of a question, tell me what you think about this, not here's why you're wrong. And I think that you're not going to win everybody over. And in fact, I'll even tell you with walkaway, it may not sound like much to most people, but my goal when I do an event, there are many times I do events where I've got a crowd this big. Sometimes I've got a bigger crowd. Sometimes I'm talking to college kids. Sometimes I'm talking to the Black community, the Hispanic community. My goal is always to change the minds, hopefully, of 5%. If I can get 5% to just simply say, that's interesting what he said, or he didn't seem as racist as I thought he was going to be. If I can get 5% of people to feel that way, I consider that a total victory, because it's very rare that you're going to change somebody's mind with one experience. But it's seeds. We're planting seeds. Every conversation is a seed, and you just plant seeds, and you plant seeds, and you plant seeds, and you plant seeds, and then the next thing you know, the rain comes and the harvest is there. And it doesn't, it's not going to happen with every single person. But we don't need to get every single person. We just need to get 51%.
All right, so we got Bill. I want to hear some of your top ones. Can we try to get Bill? Okay, let's see.
Well, we had a big one today. Elon Musk.
Good.
Just announced on Twitter that he's never going to vote Democrat again.
Yeah. All right, can we hear? Okay. I think we can hear you. There we go. Can you hear us now?
There we go. I can hear you guys. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I'm sorry. I probably only have about 5 minutes here. They're going to start boarding my plane soon, but I'm really sorry I can't be there in person.
Oh, that's all right. We're just glad you were able to join us. You want to introduce your attorney here?
I certainly do. So this was one of my attorneys on my criminal case. His name is Bill Asaley. He's from here in the great state of California, and he's running for office, which he can tell you about. And I'll just say one more thing quickly. So as I told you guys, I had two attorneys. One attorney was a little bit older and very conservative and very sort of from another time. Bill was my attorney who would always say, they're out to get you. Don't believe them. Don't believe anything that they have to say. These people can't be trusted.
That's the kind of guy I want to vote for.
Right, exactly. That's Bill Asaley.
Okay, so you're running for office. Tell us about it.
Yes, I'm running for state assembly. It's actually my second go. I ran against Sabrina Cervantes in 2018, and we almost knocked her out of office. But this time we have a much better district. It's very solid red. There is more than one Republican on the ballot this June, so it's really important that people vote for the only Republican endorsed candidate, which is me. So we're trying to get the word out there. And yeah, I mean, I have been in the thick of it. I've worked at the U.S. Department of Justice. I was an assistant U.S. attorney here in the Central District. And what is happening in our country is really a disgrace. The politicization of the criminal justice system is, I think, one of the most dangerous things that are happening. The left, they are just rabid and insane, and they want to lock up people that they disagree with. They have no tolerance, and they are politicizing the Department of Justice. I've never seen anything like it. Brandon's case is a great case study in what happens when we, on the right, allow the left to get away with things and do what they're doing. And we just sit back and pretend like we're above the fray and we're the better guys. And that doesn't cut it anymore.
Yeah.
So how can people, because we've got a live audience here. Most of them here don't live in your district, but we do have an online audience and we know a lot of them are in your district. How can they get more information about your campaign?
Sure. Well, let me tell you what areas we do cover. We have, this is the new 63rd district, so it's got Norco, Corona, Lake Elsinore, Canyon Lake, Menifee, and a little part of Riverside. And you can visit our website. It's esayley4assembly.com. So Esayley is ESSAYLI for assembly.com. Yeah, visit our website. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and now, thanks to new management, we're also on Twitter.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me there.
Thank you for joining us.
I got to run.
Have a safe flight.
All right,
bye, Bill.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. There it is. Okay. All done. We're done with this. Good.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Before we.
Well, I have a couple of things.
Okay.
So because you.
Sorry, I thought that was the end of the show. We're done.
Nope. I still need to know about some upcoming events. You have an event?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about your event. Well, I think we have a slide for it as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, this is the first live event that my organization Walkaway is doing since the FBI came to my house, and we're doing it in Los Angeles, California. So we're doing a rally outdoors that we're calling "No Guts, No Glory," and basically we're basically just saying that if you want to enjoy the glory of your freedom, if you want to enjoy the glory of being an American, it's time to have guts. We've got to have guts, people, because there's some really terrible things happening in this country. Now, I know how you Californians are. You're like, well, that's like a 17-minute drive, so I couldn't possibly. I know it's a far drive. I just came here tonight from Los Angeles. I know. I'd like to invite all of you guys. Please consider making the drive. I know it's far. I really do. And I know that gas is, thanks, Joe. I know what's going on with gas. But it's Saturday, 2 o'clock, Beverly Hills. We're doing it at Beverly Hills City Hall. The reason why I'm going to try to twist your arm even a little tiny bit more to come is because it's really important to me that we send a loud message to the Biden regime and the DOJ and everyone else that they did not succeed in breaking Walk Away Me or the Walk Away movement. I want to have a strong showing of people to just say their plan didn't work. So, as much as I know Californians hate to drive, please consider making the drive. Beverly Hills, 2 o'clock on Sunday. It's at Beverly Hills City Hall. And it's going to be really fun. This is going to be a joyous celebration of victory over these people.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can people follow you right now? We didn't have time to go through your social media platform that you got going on. But, but people can connect with you. How do they connect with you?
Absolutely. So I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, and YouTube. But the easy part is that my handle is the same on all of them. So I'm at Brandon Straka, and my last name is spelled Straka. But I'm being throttled on Twitter and Facebook. So if you use those platforms, please do give me a follow on there and follow along and share content and comment. And because I basically went silent after I got arrested for an entire year, and now I'm kind of reclaiming my glory, so I could use a little help getting there. And so if you could give me a follow and share content and make sure that people know that Walkaway is back and I'm back. I know we don't have time, but later this year, Walkaway will be launching our own platform called Walkaway Social to replace Facebook. Actually, after I got arrested, took down the Walkaway campaign. And so we're bringing it back on our own platform that we're calling Walkaway Socials. All those wonderful testimonials, videos, and written testimonials, hundreds of thousands of people leaving the party. We're going to rebuild that, but on a platform that I own, not Mark Zuckerberg, okay?
All right.
So,
all right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate you and all that you do. You're going to hang out? People can come meet you?
Sure. See you Saturday? Yeah? All right, cool.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Don't forget, next week we got Michael Franchise is going to be on the program. You're not going to want to miss that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everybody that's tuned in online. We'll see you next week on Wednesday Night Live.
Thank you.
Well, hey, I really do hope that our guest today and our time together was a blessing to you. I want to ask, if it was, would you please share this video out with your friends on social media? Also, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to us so that way you can be updated every time we have a new episode of Our Watch. Again, blessing to have you with us, and we hope that you have a blessed time being effective for the kingdom in the culture that we live in.